Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bell to Bell. Today, we're welcoming Miss Stella Downs, and you may know her from her classroom days at Jones Middle School or as an amazing administrator. But let's welcome her to Bell, Comfort Elementary Principal, Miss Stella Downs.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you.
All right. Well, we like to start with a bell ringer, as any good class does. And since I'm in the presence of historical greatness, I want to know.
Is that your nice way of saying I'm mature?
No. I want the audience to know that Stella was the first ever Jones County Junior Miss. And could you please tell us about that experience?
Okay, that happened way back in 1982. And we had in Jones County, we used to have at the county fairgrounds, every year we had the county fair. And with that, we had a Miss Jones County contest. Well, we reached a point where the fair just wasn't getting enough coverage here in Jones County anymore, and the county fair ended. And so thusly, the Miss Jones County program ended. And so a group of people got together and wanted to bring in a junior miss program to Jones County. And because it offered scholarship money to young women, and it's based not just on your stage performance, but we had to go through an interview. They looked at our scholastic data, as well as the things we did on stage, which was physical fitness, poise and appearance, and our talent piece. So you had 5 different components that went into that. And so one was put together. It was held in the old Pollocksville Elementary School, which, if you're going way back, since you said historical, the old Pollocksville Elementary School had this fabulous auditorium in the upstairs of the school, but a tiny stage with very little space and no air conditioning. And we did that in a September of 1981. And then I went to Greensboro representing Jones County to the state competition in 1982.
Nice. I have to ask what your talent was.
I sang, but it was not good. That was that was my weak point there. Of course, scholastics and interview were my strong points. My stage appearance were definitely the weak areas. I was much better in the offstage part of the competition.
As my son would say, pish posh.
Pish posh.
You're definitely a champion for Jones County. What made you want to stay and teach at Jones Middle?
Well, when I graduated from college and got married, I lived all over the United States. I lived in major cities, East Coast, West Coast, Midwest. I sampled the United States. And then my husband and I and our 2 daughters moved back to Jones County in 2001 and decided to stay in this area. And I had always toyed with teaching, even though I will have to say, when I was young, I always made the statement that I will never be a teacher. My mom taught at Pollocksville for 34 years, and I just said I was not going to be a teacher. But as you age, hopefully with age comes some wisdom, and found that probably was what I really should do with my life. And so I joined Jones County Public Schools in 2003 as a lateral entry social studies and science teacher. And found that I absolutely loved middle schoolers from a teaching perspective. I guess I'm just that crazy. I could relate to middle schoolers, and taught for 10 years at Jones Middle.
Well, we're definitely glad to have you, and have loved to see you moved up to administration.
Thank you.
Besides your mom, who was your favorite teacher growing up, and how did that teacher influence your style and educational philosophy?
Okay, well, I have to say, I did have my mom as my 3rd grade teacher. So I would have to say she, from a life perspective, has been the most impactful on my life. But I loved Bill Tharrington at Jones Senior High School. Those of y'all that remember Mr. Tharrington, he always did his hair like this because a hair was out of place, not a piece of his clothing was out of place. He was like perfect every day in the classroom. He wore this gigantic class ring that he would bang on his podium to get your attention. And he would let you know that repetition is good for the soul and go to church on Sunday. He brought history to life for me. And then I ended up being a history major in college.
Is that where Glenn got his tagline when he's announcing?
It is probably so, yeah, because Glenn was right there with me in Mr. Tharrington's classrooms.
He would always say, have a safe trip home and don't forget to go to church on Sunday.
Right, exactly.
All right. How do you think students, or how do you think students will remember you from the classroom? And then how do you think they'll remember you as a principal, your current students?
I hope in both situations, students will remember me as being respectful of them as human beings and caring for them on a life basis. Academics is extremely important. It gives people opportunities in life, but we've got to take care of the whole person and have to be concerned with the whole person that is there and know them as a person when we're teaching them. And so I hope that my former students and the former students I'll have in the future will remember me for caring about them and trying to care for them as a whole.
Yes, and Comfort's doing a lot of great things for social emotional learning that I've got to witness the past few years coming here. So I think that is a definite possibility that they're going to remember you as someone who really cared about them, not as a number, not as a test score, but cared about them as a child and as a person. And speaking of social emotional, what's been the hardest part about administering this year with the pandemic and everything?
Seeing students who otherwise are pretty vivacious, just simply being sad. They aren't with the people they want to be with as much as they can. It's caused further isolation when students, I know that the purpose of school is not for them to come to socialize, but it is in Jones County a major social point for them because we do live, our neighbors are not real close to us. And so we don't get to see a lot of other people sometimes. And so coming to school is where students get to see their friends and get to spend time with their friends and get to have that social interaction. And so for those students, like our sixth graders who are still on an A day and a B day, they aren't getting that interaction with their whole grade level as they have in the past. And I can see that impact on them, that they aren't getting that social support from friends because they're not with the whole group as they would be in the past. And even the younger kids, even though I have to say from an administrative side, keeping kids 6 feet apart in the classroom has reduced discipline issues. It's also, I miss seeing them all together on the carpet for carpet time, together, grouped together and sharing that time in that close-knit environment that we aren't able to have right now.
Okay, has there been any positives or any benefits?
Oh yeah, when you line up 6 feet apart in the hallway, you don't run into each other and you don't trip each other and you don't hit each other and you don't poke and prod each other. When you're sitting at your desk 6 feet apart, you can't hit the person next to you. So we've had virtually no discipline issues in the school, or very few anyway, because you can't reach the person next to you.
All right, and
lunches have been very quiet with no kids in the cafeteria.
And our last essential question, why do you think elementary is the most important time in a child's life?
I go back to teaching at middle school. When I taught at middle school, I met students who did not have the skills they needed to be successful as a 7th grader or 8th grader. Not to mention to have the skills they needed then to try to go on to high school. And when they were at middle school and we just had 7th and 8th grade at the middle school, in 2 years, no matter how hard we worked, we couldn't make up all the ground that we needed to at times, unfortunately, which left me feeling lacking, because I wanted them prepared for high school, in all levels, socially, emotionally, academically. So I feel the foundations of elementary are so imperative to get in place before they reach that middle school ground, and is that those expressions of learning to read up through third grade and then reading to learn fourth grade on. If they don't have those skills by learning to read, those basic foundational skills that are there, then how are they going to read to learn the rest of their academic career? So that I feel in elementary, we need to find their gaps as early as possible and start filling those gaps. And we do a lot of that here at Comfort with core assessing and small group interventions, and trying to close gaps as early as possible so that by the time they do reach fourth grade, when they're in that read to learn, we're getting them in that, we're having those foundation skills in place, or moving toward having those foundation skills in place. But if they don't, we don't stop with foundation skills. We're still offering them 4 through 6 to close the gaps they have. So hopefully by the time they leave here in 6th grade, they aren't going to have huge foundational basic reading skill gaps. Same with math. Our kids tend to do better in math here at Comfort than reading anyway. So math seems to come more naturally, or our teachers just like math better. I don't know, but we tend on a regular basis to perform better with math than we do reading. So we really focus on our closing reading gaps as much as we can at Comfort.
Excellent. Strong foundation makes a strong person. All right, so we've made it through the essential questions. We have, it's the end of the day, all you want to do is get to your car, but people stop you with crazy questions that delay you to getting to your car. So this is we like to call sprint to the parking lot. You have to get through my crazy questions as fast as you can so that you can get to your car and get home. Are you prepared?
Ready.
Okay. Miss Downs, what is a gobble wobble?
A gobble wobble? Mm-hmm. A gobble wobble, I hope to be a fun run and Thanksgiving time for people just to come out and run around the track or walk around the track and collect a few toys for Tots. But we've got a lot of planning to go yet.
You got a few months till November. So.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about your new patio furniture?
I love my new patio furniture. It has a table with a fire pit in the middle, and then cushions in the seats, and they rock and they spin and can get all comfy. And I enjoy sitting out on my patio.
All right, that might lead to your next question, which is, what is your guilty pleasure?
I have probably lots of guilty pleasures, but I love just sitting on the patio with a good book and propping my feet up and reading and letting everything else go.
Just let it go. All right. You mentioned fundraising. So if you had $100,000 to donate or create a charity, what would you do with it?
I would like to see something that helps promote positive mental health in Jones County. I feel there's a lot of people suffering mental health issues in Jones County and they don't even realize it. Yet if they try to seek assistance, it's hard to find. Mm-hmm. And then to try to get it paid for and to make it readily and easily available to people so that people don't have to search to find it and to get access to it. If they're in need, there needs to be something that they can get to quite quick, fast, and easy.
And hopefully remove the stigma from it. Because
yes,
people don't,
definitely.
They feel like if they reach out that it's weak or they should be ashamed when you're really
definitely not. I believe it's courageous to reach out for help.
Well, I mean, just
And
like if you exercise to make yourself better, you got to exercise your mind also.
and your emotions.
All right. Well, that got serious and heavy. So we're going to move on to the next question.
Well, you haven't hit one of my sermon topics yet, but I could preach on some things.
Well, you get a chance to make a lasting impression comment. So when they get there, if you had someone following you around all the time, what would you have them do?
Wear comfortable shoes.
Look that's how much you care about other people. You weren't like, answer my emails for me. You're like, wear comfortable shoes. I need you to be comfortable. All right. I know you've had a bugaboo sometimes about technology. So what technology do you wish existed? If you could just snap your fingers, I need this technology.
Oh boy, technology that I wish existed. One, I wish I had decent internet at my house.
Jones County, CenturyLink.
Please. And then I just want to be able to talk to it, but it's got to understand my accent and my language and my wording, and not get me wrong.
All right.
Because I can do okay Google. I do okay Google. Turn on the kitchen lights at home, and and like 5 minutes later, we finally get the lights on when I've left the kitchen. Sure. But first you'll have to unlock your device. My phone is unlocking the device, trying to unlock the device right now. But I would love interactive technology that actually can read my mind. Okay.
I think Elon Musk is working on that. So
they can actually give me what I want. We'll put it that way.
There you go.
But first step is internet. Good high-speed broadband internet at my house on 10 Mile Fork Road in Jones County.
We need the foundational. Just without the good internet, we can't have any of this technology.
Right.
CenturyLink, fix your boxes.
They don't come out my way.
They don't.
No.
I got on the
not
list.
With high-speed broadband anyway.
I get a blazing 10 megabytes a second. I'm going to get off this topic. All right. If you had a staff meeting, if your staff meeting had a show and tell for adults, what would you be proud to show off?
Our social emotional approach to learning here, our closing of gaps in students' academic progress and growth. I feel very cheated out of last year.
Oh yeah.
We were doing some fabulous things here last year. And I don't know that we would have gotten the proficiency we were aiming for at the end of the school year if we had had EOGs last year. If we'd had a complete school year and had EOGs on the track we were moving on. But I know we would have had fabulous growth for our students if we had been able to make it all the way, all 9 months doing what we were doing last school year. And that's not just EOGs, that's also in iStation. For the lower grades, we would have seen fabulous growth for our students because we were really targeting closing individual learning gaps. And this year, the pandemic's got in the way of that. And actually, I'm on a full normal year at Comfort. This is my 3rd year here. And we had Florence. Then we had the first part of the pandemic, and now we had the second part of the pandemic. So I've not had a full 9 months of regular everybody in school every day. So I'm aiming for that. And then maybe we can really see the results of the hard work we've been putting into things.
And I will co-sign on that because part of your social emotional is you started every day with it. So the kids here, they got to school, they got their needs met socially and emotionally. And then like the rest of the day, they were more focused and just happier. And so
yeah, it saved time in the long run. You spend 15 minutes in the morning addressing social emotional, but the rest of the day they were more engaged, more on task, less disruptions to be more productive throughout the day.
Exactly. Okay. Describe your sense of humor in one word.
Internal.
I was going to say, I just saw you filtering all the words you couldn't say.
I can just sit sometimes and start laughing and nobody knowing what's going through my head. And sometimes it embarrasses me because it probably shouldn't be going through my head, but it is.
Okay, I wrote this question because I'm approaching a change in decade for my birthday. So,
Oh, geez.
what makes you feel old?
My birthday.
What makes,
You know, when you sign up for like an app on your phone and you've got to go back and find the year you were born, and I'm like, it just keeps going and going and going until I get to that date. Um, so that I've got wisdom showing in my hair now. There, I call it my wisdom coloring. Is there? There's lots of things that I could probably put in that. My children are adults, and so those kinds of things. There's lots that make me feel old because I'm getting pretty old, Michael.
So in positively, what makes you feel young?
I can now jog 3 miles straight without stopping.
You made me tired just saying that.
I have been working on that since March when we went into the pandemic. I said, okay, I'm going to start exercising. I'm not going to let this get me down. And it's taken some time, but my sister and I, Pam Banks, y'all all know Pam Banks in high school. We jog together regularly, and we're up to being able to go 3 miles without stopping at a jog. And I think we go at a pretty decent pace when we jog. And so that's makes me feel young when I do that. And I just can't believe the stress relief that it gives me. You know, I work all day feeling just, and I get out there and I run, and then I feel like, ooh,
endorphin release. And I have to say, Pam Banks, who when I went for try to find some secret information to ask you questions, confided in me that she has not watched not one episode of this show, even though we have worked together over a decade. Pam Banks.
I have watched episodes of the show, and okay, let me just say, I felt for you and was just as heartbroken as you were when Tiasha Bryant Majette did not name either of us in her favorite teachers list.
And you taught her math.
I taught her math. I taught her algebra.
The disrespect is real in this arena.
I was just devastated.
I'm gonna tag her in this video. All right. So you've made it to the parking lot. Congratulations. Woo-hoo! Before you leave the show, we need your exit ticket. And your exit ticket, like we said, is your one chance. If you only have one message to leave for people to remember, like if you don't do anything else, please follow this advice. What would your message be to them?
I could talk all day on this, Michael.
Well, let's not.
I'm gonna make it time specific in that under our current circumstances. And I may be preaching to the choir here in this a little bit, but the importance of an education is so imperative in an individual's life. And it doesn't necessarily mean just because you're putting a lot of priority on education and getting a strong education that you have to go to a four-year college or university, or that you have to do all these fabulous things that an education will afford you. But the fact that if you get a strong education and make it a priority in life and take your education seriously, you then have opportunities that you would not otherwise have. When I started teaching, I had a four-year college degree. I did not have a degree in education, but I was able to go right into teaching as a lateral entry teacher because I had a four-year degree. I had that opportunity. I had not closed that door on that opportunity. And so my advice to students is make it a priority in your life. Take it seriously. It will give you more opportunities than anything else you will ever encounter. To parents, make it a priority. Set the example for your students, for your children. Let them know it should be a priority in their life by your actions, not necessarily by your words. Support them in this remote learning environment by setting up routines for them and stressing the importance of getting your work done and hanging in there through the remote learning. Do not slack off from it. It is not a remote learning day, is not a vacation day. It is your education. I already have mine. It's yours. You need to get it. You need to set the priority, and you need to do that. Along with my stress on academics and education, I know from a teacher and educator perspective, it's not about academics alone. It's about the whole child and helping them learn about life, about maturity, about social skills, emotional skills, as well as their academic skills. And so we need to address it all. And education right now is a huge umbrella, and a lot falls under it. And we need to make sure we're addressing the whole gambit of education.
Excellent points. Take your education seriously, learn something new every day. And that brings us to our time. Thank you so much for coming and interviewing, being on the show that your sister doesn't watch. Maybe she'll watch this episode.
Well, thank you, Michael, and thank you for not asking me anything terribly embarrassing.
I would never. Would I? Not with the cameras rolling. All right. Thank you, Ms. Downs.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.
Look at you. I think you're the first person to just get it right on the get-go.
Well, this is where I do all my Zoom and Google Meet meetings, just like this. I always have like marks on my desk where the laptop sits and everything.